Hey, KYT here. Just wanted to get in groove on making video content again as we head towards the first major week of the DDHL and NHL, and talk about like simple strategies that anyone can apply to be a lot more competitive this season. And this concept you might be aware of this already, but I know not every team is or takes it as seriously as they should. And not every concepts are fun when they're really simple to apply. Like we have to feel like we don't need to have spreadsheets like gas to compete. Like if at one point it's all about spreadsheets, then we've pushed the league into too complex of a game when it shouldn't take that to be able to compete at the highest level. And I think Barry and Derek did a good job like highlighting some of the key reasons the Brush have been dominant and trying to figure out a blueprint for how to use the farm, etc., based on what I've done. But there are a lot of little things that I think any team can use right now to really crank up their chances. And I do want to share them because, again, I feel some teams that have done bad last season or previous seasons, they tend to not realize that they could do a lot of things that could do a lot better. And so let's jump into games played, which is, like, again, maybe really obvious to some. But if we rank games played since the year the Bros started the run, I was fourth, first. So in the weekly previews that Nidot does, like he does stress like at times like the gap in the game's difference. But I think week to week, a lot of teams don't really take it seriously that there's a big difference between, guys playing 4 or 2 games. And a lot of us have middling guys from even the top teams have like a lot of guys at the bottom of the roster. And maybe they just keep them even though they played 2 games. I've seen some teams pick up guys when they only have 2 games and they played them that weekend. I'm like, I don't really understand. And so to me, it's not a surprise that Pea Shooters, Rock Stallions have underperformed. And Rock Stallions didn't really have the offense, but like Pea Shooters, Calvin, who, complained about injuries, complained about his team, but I think he could have made a lot more of his team if he didn't like lag 100 games behind the top team, right? Like my team doesn't even have to be as talented if I'm playing way more games. So that's something for teams to look out for. I do want to highlight that, honestly, I think Barry knows what's up because he's right up there every year, second, and fourth. So I think a lot of, like we've said, that Barry's team looks kind of mid, but he always like stretches of the season outperforms. And this might be a reason why, because he's been able to make the most out of his roster against the other teams. So again, something to look out for if you've been at the bottom of this list, and Mike was, I'm surprised, Spreadsheet King was dead last one year, then it's really something to look at. It's like, often some of these bottom teams like Dan killed it despite the low games played, but some of these bottom teams are like, man, really down on their team, man. The reality is like you can try harder to improve your stats across the board and be more competitive. And that's it. And so related to that concept is that like if you don't fall in love with the entirety of your roster, it's not just like twitching and grinding just for the sake of twitching and grinding, but if you have some weak points, and we all do, even the top teams, then being able to recognize that, some of your weak playables have 2 games, right? And considering swapping it with someone in a free agency pool with 3 or 4 games is important. Remember, truck is low variance, and some people truck like, I forget, with something crazy per game, like 10 per game. And just having that extra game is huge for a truck and block guy. So if you keep a lot of, if you're not considering twitching and grinding just for the sake of that extra game enough, now is the time to think about that a little. And so teams that sort of have a slot or 2 that they really aren't attached to and are able to switch in and out based on matchups in the coming week, they have that flexibility to take advantage of games played. I'll end this with a quick talk on gas against Derek. Two guys I've talked with a lot of strategy about, and what's interesting, like projected, we all know the numbers are always kind of fucked sometimes, but I think what I look forward to looking at as we progress, as we all learn more about how to, build our teams better for hits and walks and things like that, what to optimize for. I do wonder, like, if the key is sometimes to just, like, what's a good indicator to give up on hits. So despite, like, the Handsome Jacks having a 12 truck lead here, he's projected way behind. And I don't know if it includes the first week's results or not. But it's like I looked at it. It's like when you're behind a lot, like this much truck, you're going to lose something crazy. Like I think probably 80 to 90% of the time. So is it worth concentrating on that or just solidifying some of these other categories, right? So I think that's what's to look out for when you're behind in projected truck for a lot. Is against a particular opponent? Is that a signal to completely rearrange your lineup to be able to take advantage of the other categories? Or is that also a signal to like really drop a lot of your 2-game guys and look to the waiver wire and pick all these hits and blocks guys that have 3 or 4 games that could really have a huge impact? Because like for Heads and Jacks, let's say, if I were them and I looked at, again, I'm just saying Handsome Jacks and Gas because I've been talking the strategy with them the most. And I would go here. We have these like 200 hits guys, and you go to schedule. Like it might be worth, playing some of these 3 gamers to really bridge that gap or give yourself a chance, particularly when you have a team that might just be playing a lot of 2-game guys. So we don't have some Jacks again. I do think he has a lot of, like, he's behind the games a lot against Gas, so that's a huge disadvantage, right? Like a lot of 2-gamers here, unfortunately. But then again, it's also not a reason to like give up on guys that you're really high on week 1, right? Like you want to see how they develop and then drop people that aren't that good. Like for example, for me, I'm not. Washington has 1 game. He's not playing Tom Wilson. I'm not playing John Carlson, right, for week 1. But that's not a reason to drop him or some of these 2-game guys that I value in future weeks. So that's what the challenge is also. You have to balance the fact that there are guys you want to keep for the long run versus doing better this year. And again, there's just a lot to think about that, week to week that doesn't really rely on heavy calculations. You could just look and have a feel for what you should be doing. And, I just made this video because I think this is often underlooked. And, like, let's see, we're spreadsheet king, good looking guys, not, doesn't really pay attention. So, but did last year, 3rd place. So see you guys in the next video.